JF Stretford Paddock, this is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford as usual, and the weather is all right actually. The weather, it's brisk, I think is the right word. Cameraman Cal has even got his Adidas Gazelles on because it's dry. Happy days. Getting on to United news, there's a transfer link with someone called Dembele, but it's a different Dembele. It's £30 million rated Moussa Dembele from Lyon. Reports coming out of France, and they've also been picked up by the English press, as you'd expect, that Lyon are now willing to sell the striker, who he has had a good little spell there at Lyon. The last couple of seasons he's been relatively prolific, but this season hasn't been his greatest. And there's reports that they're actually looking to sell him for around £30 million, which in today's market is a bit of a bargain. West Ham reportedly interested in him, but so are United, and it looks like the two clubs could go head-to-head, possibly in January, to try and sign the striker. I mean, you might look at it and go, why are Manchester United going up against West Ham for a player? That sort of sends alarm bells ringing, because you'd think that, no disrespect to West Ham United, but the sort of teams and clubs that should be battling United for players are the likes of, you know, City, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, not clubs like West Ham. But that's where we're at, and maybe that's a little bit of an indication the levels that United are at a minute. I don't want to get too carried away with our poor start to the season, but we need to improve. Now you might look at it as well and go, well, we've got Edinson Cavani, we've got Andy Martial, we've got Marcus Rashford, we've got Mason Greenwood. Do we need another striker? But Dembele is 24, Edinson Cavani is 33. Dembele would be a sort of a longer term option, so maybe there is a little bit of truth to that. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. A lot may depend on whether West Ham go in for him in January, where United are in January. Do we need reinforcements? Do we need to bring someone in? Do we need another attacker? And will he be willing to come here and possibly sit on the bench? Because the likelihood is, if he does come here, he won't start. The likelihood is he'll have to sort of battle for not a place on the bench, but to be one of our sort of leading substitutes, if you will, with players like Cavani ahead of him, who's obviously just got off the mark as well at Goodison this weekend, which was great to see. So it's one to keep an eye on. We will keep an eye on it. Sort of makes sense in a way, but we'll see. It's one of those where if it happened, you wouldn't be shocked, but if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world, is it really? Because, like I said, he's had a couple of good seasons in League One. He had a good spell at Celtic. It's debatable whether he could bring that sort of form to the Premier League, although at 24 you'd expect him to kick on a little bit and improve. Now, I did mention the game against Everton at Goodison, where we saw Edinson Cavani get off the mark. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spoke after the game, and he talked about how we'd been set up to fail. We had the game in Turkey against Istanbul. I won't say the rest of that team because I always get it wrong. Against Istanbul. We then had to come back, obviously, I think Thursday morning, and we had a game Saturday lunchtime, or dinner time as we say here in Manchester, at 12:30, which is almost the morning, isn't it? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was fuming about that. He said the fixture schedule wasn't fair. He said United had obviously been set up to fail, and he was fuming and he was kicking off about it. And I think he had a right to, because it didn't make much sense. You're playing on a Wednesday night, you're travelling on a Thursday, and you've got a game which is almost on a Saturday morning. Not really good enough. So he spoke about that. He said, we had been playing, I'm going to get to the point of the news, why this is news in a minute. We have been to Turkey, played loads of games this season already. We got back Thursday morning, and we are playing Saturday lunchtime. It's an absolute shambles. Now, funnily enough, he's got an ally in Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp spoke after the Scousers played City Sunday. They drew 1-1. He said, OK, Sunday, no problem. Not the 12:30 because you wake up and play football. This is the recovery phase. Premier League has to change. Sky, BT, everyone has to talk to each other. We had, after the triple header in the international break, we played 12:30. The boy plays Wednesday night in Peru. That's not possible. So he's sort of weighing into that debate and talking about 12:30 Saturday kickoffs after you play on a Wednesday. It's not really on. And that's exactly what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was saying. He was saying, you know, that's the TV companies or whoever it is need to look at the scheduling and give whoever it is. It doesn't matter whether it's United. Obviously, it matters more to me. It matters to me because, you know, I'm a United fan. I don't really care about other clubs. But whichever club it is, they have to be given a fair schedule, because if you've got to be travelling on a Thursday morning, if you're coming all the way from Turkey or wherever after a European game and you're playing midday on a Saturday, it doesn't make any sense, especially when you see other teams that don't have that sort of fixture congestion playing on a Sunday, or even a little bit later on a Saturday. Those few hours can make all the difference. Someone dug out a tweet from Wayne Rooney from about, I think it was about 2011. It wasn't the one where he said, Rio, do you want picking up in the morning? Or where he said, I'll put you to sleep, little girl. It was a different one. And he was talking about when you've got an early kickoff at 12:30, it can be a nightmare for players because you sort of try to force down pasta at 9 o'clock in the morning. You think about it. If you're sort of playing on a Wednesday night, you're travelling, you know, I don't know what the training regime is after a game like that, probably a bit of like training or whatever, then you've got to force down food in early on a Saturday. It isn't great, and you're not going to be performing at your very best level. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needed a result at Goodison. He's under a lot of pressure, and we said this on the channel on loads of different videos that we did, the previews and podcasts and everything we talk about, that we felt like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was under real pressure, and that could have backfired for him, that fixture congestion. We got away with it in the end, you know, we obviously got the win, but had we lost that game and had the fixtures been a part of it, would he have got any sympathy? Would anyone have said, oh, well, it's not Ole's fault, we had all the travelling and we had a game late Wednesday night? I don't think they would have. So I'm actually, whisper this quietly, for once, and this is probably the only time I'm ever going to say this, I'm glad of what Jurgen Klopp said. I think he's actually said something worthwhile. We'll have to wait and see whether anyone takes any notice of it, whether the fixtures change, whether Sky, BT or whoever decide to move the schedule around next time United have a late kickoff, or sorry, a Wednesday night kickoff. And also, if you're watching Sky, I accidentally bought the Arsenal game yesterday. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought the pin was from a child lock. It wasn't. It was a pay-per-view game for Arsenal Villa, and I've sent you an email saying I want to cancel that, so make sure you read it, because I didn't even watch that game, and I don't want to be paying 15 quid for an Arsenal game I'm not even watching. I wouldn't even watch Arsenal if they were playing in my garden. I'd draw the curtains. Now, Manchester United's outcast, this says in another news story, Sergio Romero is training alone as he hopes for a January move after 100,000 a week fourth choice goalkeepers into Miami switch fell through. Stories here in the press that Sergio Romero is sort of what's the word, persona non grata at United, that he's training on his own, training with the Resis even or whatever, because he's not part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans, and he's not got the move that he wanted. Now, we know he wasn't happy in the summer transfer window. He wanted a move. It looked like he was going to go to Inter Miami. It looked like at one point he was going to go to Everton. Neither of those two moves happened. His missus was fuming. She took to social media to have a dig at the club. Now, I feel sorry for Sergio Romero. I do. I get the fact that it's a difficult thing because Manchester United selling him to Everton, you might look at it and go, well, Everton may end up challenging for the top 4 this season. If we give them a player that helps them to do that, is that undermining our efforts? I mean, can you imagine if we'd sold him Romero and he had a stormer at the weekend and got them 3 points? But then you look at Inter Miami, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with letting him go there? I mean, maybe he deserves a little bit better. He's been at the club a few years now. It helped us win the Europa League. I was there that night in Stockholm where he played in the final. He played throughout that competition and had a very good game as well. Very good competition. So he has played his part here at Old Trafford. And you look at it, he's an Argentinian international and he's 3rd in the pecking order. I mean, he's probably 4th now because he's just not involved at all. I think maybe even Lee Grant's ahead of him. But, he's not in the Champions League squad. He's not in the Premier League squad. It is a shame, and I think maybe United needs to just give him a move, let him go. I know there's sort of going to be issues around who can pay the 100 grand a week or whatever, but if someone like Inter Miami are willing to do that, just let him go. Free him. Free Sergio is the hashtag. Just finally, one little aside. The United women's team went top of the Women's Super League after beating Arsenal. A 1-0 win. So they've gone to top of the Women's Super League table. We don't usually talk about it on paper talk, but I think it's worth mentioning because I know like people like Natalie, I know they call her Nutty Nat, I think that's a Twitter name, will be very happy. We've had her on the channel talking about the women's game before. Dave Pritt as well, big fans of the women's game. So if you do like women's football, even if you like Manchester United, it's good to see us top of some league because we're not exactly top of the Premier League, are we? I've been Jay. It's beginning to get a little bit warmer. This has been a paper talk. We'll have loads of the usual suspects coming up later on. We'll have Howson's Brew, we'll have the Devil's Podcast. It is international break, but don't worry, we'll have lots of debates and videos coming up that aren't necessarily centred around England and international break because most of you won't care. So don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.